during that time, my first deployment, I was blown up twice. So the first time was an IED that they buried too deep.
So let's bust this myth, because our tents are black.
Yep.
And everybody thinks that they're going to be way too hot. What's your opinion on that? Like, kind of just, it does get cold in the desert.
But yeah, like getting out with your buddies in nature, there's something about it.
Mm-hmm. But those camping trips are like healing trips too, and I know they are for you guys. You're back with your brothers.
That kicked off, to date, one of the biggest battles in Iraq.
Right. We are on podcast number 5 or 6. I never remember, but we got Ryan Foster here at Free Spirit with us, and Ryan's turned into just a really good buddy. And I would say we don't do a ton of stuff together, but we're connected because of a really good person I think that both of us kind of respect in Keith at Leitner.
Yep.
And he connected us when we moved to Colorado, and yeah, you've just been an awesome person to get to know, and you got a cool story. So we're excited to have you on and talk a little bit about Ryan and overlanding and military. Wherever we want this to go, we can go.
All right. So, yeah. No, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys. And yeah, that connection with Keith. Keith is always a good connector as well. Like, we love doing different projects together with different people. And I mean, you and your whole family and the people at Free Spirit are amazing. So
that's awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're excited. And these things, they don't have a plan, because I have a plan usually, but like I don't have I don't really have scheduled things. So this is a fly by the seat of the pants. Like, we're here to just talk and hang out, and just because the microphones are here doesn't mean shit. So we're going to have a good time. And we always kind of open it up at the beginning, Ryan, for you to let people or for you to tell people kind of who you are, a little bit of your backstory, and try to keep me from talking the whole time, because this is really about you and who you are and kind of what makes you unique and how we came together. So I'm going to just say your turn. You're ready to rock and roll, but give us who you are, where you grew up, why you're in this, and kind of what the cards life dealt you.
So I'm Colorado native here, born and raised. Grew up over in Littleton, went to Columbine High School. Kind of was a sports guy growing up, played soccer my whole life, ended up going to play at Oregon State.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I played a few years up there, and then kind of was after 9/11, dropped out, joined the Marine Corps, and went and did a couple tours overseas in Iraq, and came back and kind of started working with my dad doing insurance. So that's kind of the short.
So post-military, you went straight into work, and that's kind of where you're at now. How long you been doing insurance? How long have you been out of the Marines?
Yeah, so I got out in 2007, so I was in from 03 to 07. I was with 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines.
Okay.
I originally thought when I got out I was going to go be a firefighter in Austin, Texas, but the economy tanked. I don't think Austin hired for like 2 years. A couple of my buddies were on there, and they're like, hey, we only work like 410s, and here's the house we live in. We chill at the lake every hour. I was like, that sounds great. I want to do that, but it just didn't open back up. So I started working with my pops. He was a Vietnam vet.
Okay.
My dad was 82nd Airborne in Vietnam, and ended up buying his dad's business. His dad passed away. My dad was only like 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
So he bought his dad's business, which was an insurance agency.
Okay.
And started doing that.
Good business to be in. I've worked my fair share of insurance claims in the roofing world, and so we got to kind of connect on that too, which right when we met each other, I was still doing both.
Yep.
I think. I was still running roofing jobs out of Free Spirit and transitioning to being here full time. So it was kind of a unique time. But so let's go back to Columbine, because Columbine is probably where I would say your real life events start, maybe that probably shaped you. So you just told me this before, I didn't know, but I remember Columbine when I was in high school. I remember where I was sitting, similar to 9/11, and you were there.
Yeah, so I was a senior at the time. My brother was a freshman. I was out at lunch at a place called New York Bagel right there on Wadsworth, and we were getting ready. By the grace of God, I was supposed to be back in the library. We were supposed to be doing some editing for Rebel News Network, one of the things we did. and I spilled pizza sauce on a guy, and I was like sitting there. I was like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry. Like, let me, give me your number. My parents can have it dry cleaned, or if we need to buy you a new one."
This was your dry cleaning.
Yeah, whatever I could do. Like, but I mean, it took up some time, and then by the time we were walking out of the New York Bagel, one of the teachers came up and was like, "Hey, don't go back to school. Someone has a gun." And we're like, "Oh, it's got to be a senior prank." I mean, we were seniors.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost time to graduate. So all of us started running to our cars to, get back to school and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, by the time we hit Bowles, it was like cop car after cop car, and we knew it was real.
Yeah.
Like something was going on. I immediately tried calling my brother, but back then cell phones were still fairly new.
Yeah, would you have a Razor?
Yep. Yeah, I think it was. I remember
Motorola Razor.
Yeah, yep.
Shave your face.
Yep. And then, I mean, the lines were already blocked,
Yeah.
so I was getting the busy signal, and so we just drove back to my house and, just praying my brother made it out. I knew my brother most of the time hung out in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
He made it back to the house, and, we kind of watched it all unfold on the TV.
Jeez and Pete's.
My brother kind of had his story of, they heard some of the shots. He kind of got down. Him and some friends, scrambled out through one of the doors by the cafeteria and made it into the neighborhood and got back home. But
What did it... I mean, it's probably obvious. I've never lived through it, right? So how did that one experience shape where the rest of your life went?
I think that was the first time that I had, one, just, I think my whole family's raised, everyone's fought in wars.
Yep.
So we've all been military men and gone and served from back past World War II and all that. We've had service men that have served our country, and we've always had grew up wanting to protect people.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the instant thing I felt was I wish I was there to do something.
I got to get back.
And especially watching it unfold on TV too. And my brother was kind of yelling get in the school. And they didn't know, the police didn't know exactly what was going on, so
Right.
they thought they were doing what was best. But meanwhile, Eric and Dylan had free reign kind of to do what they want in the
Right.
school. So it was all hard, but that protection type feeling and all that kind of raged in me, and why wasn't I there to do something? And then just watching your classmates, and
Right.
I had Mr. Sanders as a teacher. He was a phenomenal teacher, amazing human, and it was it was just tragic.
Right.
It was, no one would thought anything like that would happen in
Yeah,
Littleton.
that was the don't hold me to this, but that was the first real school shooting that really rang everybody's bell.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, the one that hit the map. I mean,
Yep.
we can go back in time, and there's been massacres that have happened and things similar, but I mean, we didn't have the media exposure and all those type of things
Right.
that really put Columbine on the map and
Yep.
and all that. So
It's weird when I drove to Colorado, and we lived down in Littleton when we first moved here, and then always used to go to that Vasa Fitness right across
Yeah.
the street from Columbine, and I remember we always talk on this podcast about the things that when you were a kid that shaped you that you'll never forget. And I felt when I drove down Bowles and saw Columbine the first time, it was a flashback from what I saw on TV, and it was the same.
yeah,
And it's just those weird memories that you don't lose as kids that are just ingrained you. It's just weird as you get older to how vividly you can remember things.
yeah,
So crazy. So you got through Columbine.
Mm-hmm.
You graduated.
yep,
And then you went college, sports. Fill us in on
yeah.
that.
So I mean, another amazing opportunity. I grew up playing with an amazing team here in Colorado. We played rush soccer was our club team, and all but two guys went and played Division I ball.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was a team. I just felt so blessed to be on it. I wasn't one of the best players, but when you have a team come together like that, that's just solid dudes.
Yep.
They all want to train hard and play hard. I mean, we would just go out and dominate.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And so 5 guys from that club team, or I think it was 5 or 4, all of us went and played at Oregon State.
Oh, wow. So you just went with 5 of your homies from one party to the next?
Yep. So, and that was trouble too, because I kind of rode my scholarship from partying and playing sports. But it was great. I mean, have built-in friends, and being in a different state too. I have that adventure heart, so
Yep.
it's going to Oregon and being in the, Pacific Northwest and all that was
So
amazing
awesome.
and beautiful. And yeah,
So you're a beaver, right?
I was a beaver. Yeah.
You still bleed orange, or what's the? You
Nah,
follow it? You
no.
just like no, not really.
No, I mean, I'll watch it if it's on. And,
Yeah. You still watch soccer, or do you call it football, or you call it soccer?
Soccer.
You
Yeah,
call
yeah.
it soccer?
No, yeah. I just was watching the Copa America and
Yeah.
all that, and all my kids are playing soccer now too. So it's definitely still in our blood, and but yeah, I think I've always been more into the alternative stuff. So like growing up here, snowboarding, mountain biking, those type of things were
Yep.
really where.
So did you do not? I don't want to transition subjects, but like, did you gravitate towards individual stuff, but then like because then you went into the military and 9/11 happened, and was that another calling of like, you kind of seem to have these team things of like teams really important, and we know that's really important to military people and that kind of camaraderie, that group. But then like you kind of transition to like you put your headphones in, you want to go ski and just like by yourself.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how it's always been?
Yeah, I mean, even all the stuff I did, like riding snowmobiles and stuff, was always with all my buddies. A bunch of them got sleds, and we'd all go up. And I mean, being in the backcountry, especially, with your buddies and no one around, is amazing. But yeah, the call to the military stuff. I mean, I had my stint at Oregon State, and just towards my sophomore year, it was kind of new. I was like, I just didn't have the passion.
Yeah,
I kind of was getting burnt out, and 9/11 happened. My brother was a senior getting out of high school then, and went straight in and enlisted.
Okay.
And made the first push to Baghdad. So
wow. my
brother was in 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, 1-4, and came back with his stories. And we had played our whole life, playing Army and wearing camis, running around with our guns, and
just like all kids should.
Yeah. And he came back, and I was like, I can't miss this.
Yeah.
And decided to leave school and enjoy myself. And so went through boot camp and kind of crazy thing. So went through boot camp, went through the School of Infantry, then ended up in 2-1. But in that process, 2 guys from my high school that I didn't really know. One was my brother's age, he played soccer with, and then another guy in between us that I really didn't know at all. All went through boot camp different times, ended up in the same platoon.
So how does that? Forgive me because I don't know, but I don't think a lot of people know the idiosyncrasies of how all this stuff happens. But like, when you go through boot camp and you say like something like you end up on these battalions or these teams, how does that selection? Are they putting together like-minded individuals and they're building a unit like that, or does it just happen by chance?
Well, yeah, you kind of get selected for what your job is going to be, and then you go through basic boot camp, and everyone's going to do that, and then you kind of go to your specialty school. So for us, it's the School of Infantry, which we did at Pendleton. So we go through that, and then after that, you get selected for what battalion you're going to go to. You may even get selected out of that to try out for recon or something like that, special forces, or later on you can do that as well. But yeah, so it was all random chance.
Okay.
I mean, they're filling quotas of where they need to send guys and put guys.
Yep.
So us 3 making it in together into the same freaking battalion and same platoon, I mean, it was insane.
Do you think that because like I grew up playing sports, and we played team sports growing up all the time, and then I transitioned to an individual sport. But like I was on one of those teams where we won state 4 out of 5 years.
Yeah.
Every single year, one of us won. And it was, or not every year, but like I finished 3rd, 1st, 2nd in my 3 out of 4 years in it. But our team won or finished runner up, and like all those guys grinding together, like at that stage of life, they all turned out pretty damn good. Like they had that really good team, that really good grind at the beginning. They took it to the next stage of their life, the next stage, and it was all because they were around like-minded people. Yeah. And it shaped me a little bit in that, team sense of individual sports, but there's a team, and now it's business. It's like, okay, how can we run the best team here at Free Spirit? Yeah. It's fun to be a part of a team.
Oh, 100%.
So,
and we need each other. I mean, each and every one of us has different unique gifts that we're blessed with, and it's like we need those complementary, type gifts to help each other. I mean,
well, that's why I'm in a family business, because I always say this: Tanner does stuff a lot better than I do in certain areas, and Christine more in other areas. And it's like it just takes a group of people to accomplish a goal, which is like what's trained into you guys is like one of those things that I think, at least me from the outside looking in, I always felt like military was never something I could have personally done, but I think that's part of probably the mental barrier to get over is you can do it.
Yep.
And like we need it, and if you feel the calling to do it, go do it, because I think I'm like jealous in a certain sense that I didn't do it, because I feel like there's so many things that come out of it that are good for you in life.
Yeah.
Right. And that's 100%. Hard to teach, like just workouts in college aren't the same thing as like what you guys went through. So mad respect. I think how we feel at Free Spirit, like 100% support. Like every single time I see somebody, I always say thanks for your service. Like that's like that jealousy, like not jealousy. It's more of like fuck man, I could have never done what you did. So like, thanks for doing it for me in a sense. I think that's really cool. And so at Free Spirit, we want to be involved somehow. And I think that's where you and I kind of connect, is I have this mad respect for the military. You've done it. You've transitioned into normal life. And it's like, but you're still staying connected to be able to do things. And I think that's why I think it's cool that you're in here like talking to us, because I don't know, I wouldn't even tell you if you had an Instagram or you were like, we're just we're just dudes, right? So, but you and Spencer are both kind of like my military guys that I rely on. I call and say, we're trying to figure out something to do, but what can we do? Yeah. And I'll transition this a little bit of like, how did you get into overlanding, and like, how'd you get into vehicles, after all this doing insurance?
Yeah. I mean, what really got me into vehicles, I guess, was why I was in the Marines. One of my buddies, who was an Orange County dude, started talking to me about diesel trucks. And, we go on our deployments, we come back with a chunk load of cash, and we're like, what do you do with it? Most guys go blow it on a car. Yeah. And he's like, he's like, do you know what you can do with diesels? And I was like, no, like, I know I used them to pull my sleds, but I never knew, like, you can do injectors and cams and bigger turbos and make them really cool. Right. And so that's where that's where my love for vehicles, because I didn't grow up with a dad that kind of, was like, oh, Tinker. Work on cars. Yeah. And my buddy, boss, like, showed me those. And so I bought my first, it was a 2004 Cummins. And it was, from there, it was just
hooked.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. And I went through a sad phase of almost every year buying another truck, fixing it up, lifting it, and just trying to do cool things with it. But I think getting into the overlanding time, like, it was, I love these mountains. I mean, we're blessed to live where we live, and when you start to have a family and stuff, you want to get your kids out and have them enjoy what we have here as well. And so, ways to do that, ways to do it comfortably, and still like tinkering with stuff. Yeah. But really it was COVID. So COVID came, and I started a small company called Colorado Venture Rigs. Okay. And was building trucks through a dealership that I work with. They would buy the vehicles, we'd outfit them, and then sell them. Okay. So that was kind of the model. Yeah. Kind of like a King's Chariot or Miramar out there. They pump those out a ton. But I mean, it was just something fun to do, and I was like, plus the business I'm in, employee benefits. Shoot, if people start laying off people, then there goes my income. Right. So I was like, I might as well figure out something to do.
They're still going to buy cars. Yeah. Still going to buy cool trucks.
Yep. So it just led to a bunch of different connections and working with companies like yourself and Keith at Leitner and other really cool ones. And we did a couple, military builds. I've worked with a couple like professional athletes,
Very cool.
And it's just fun. Like it's something that fills my cup, and I get to, hang out with good people. That's the thing. You come first. You come to these meetups, like the meetups that you guys have, or like some like the other guys, like Mike at Spirit of 1876 and stuff like that. Like just good people, right? Like good people wanting to hang out and
That's what I mean. This last one we did this last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't even remember, but it was just like a happy hour. And it's not, we're not trying to sell anything. We're like trying to build a community of like getting people together. Like I even say all the time, it's just like talking to real people, you know, like getting in those situations again where it's like, this is normal. Like going down to Spirit 1876, going to R4T, doing different stuff and being out with people is the only, like, it's really the only reason I'm in business, because I really like people.
Yep.
Like I love all the employees. I like the customers. I like all the interactions. We didn't have that through COVID. It was fucked up.
Yeah. And our community is about getting connected, but you feel it when I've been to several of your meetups and like the stuff here at the headquarters, and dude, it's freaking amazing, and your family's amazing. Like, so I suggest anyone that's listening to this, like, definitely come say hi to you, say hi to the fam, meet the fam, and you guys are so welcoming, and the things you want to do are awesome. And I mean, I love it. We
want to be an avenue, and we say this a lot on the podcast, but it's like, we want to be an avenue for your enjoyment, because like that's what we remember as kids. Like we remember going out and doing this stuff. We'll never forget it, right? And so it's like, you're a family man now. How many kids you got?
3.
You got 3.
Three
so like,
on the way.
We challenge parents, like they're never gonna forget this stuff. I don't have to challenge you. Like I'd lose in any of those challenges. But getting kids out there, and surprisingly of what they remember and what shapes them, of like fucking playing in the dirt, eating dirt, like stuff that like everybody will tell you is wrong, and you're like, wait, I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, somebody made you go lick white dog shit, you know, like you're still there, like you're still fine, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like kids being kids, and we want to be an avenue for that. We take an approach of the health and wellness stuff a little bit too, which I think we'll talk about a little bit maybe in the second half of this, is like getting out there, what does it do for you? And then more along the military side, or like your brothers, of like, what's it doing for them and how can we facilitate that? So I think we should probably pick that up in like the second half of this, because I think that'll be a really interesting conversation for me to hear. Because like I'm like, look, I've like met all of these people in my life. I've got a great network. I always say, like, I've met Tiger Woods. Like, I'm a golfer. Like I've sat with him on a couch. Like I've talked to him. But I wasn't fanboyed out. But like when I met some of these military guys and got to play golf with some of these like well-known dudes, like I'm like fanboyed out in a sense, because I'm like, I think that's where the mad respect comes in. So like, we want to be an avenue to help, and we haven't found the right thing yet at Free Spirit where we're like fully invested in it, but like we're so supportive and so, I don't want to say, well, no, I'll just say it, pro-military. Like we are pro-United States. We are, America is like where we grew up. We want the best for it. It takes people like you guys. It takes like heroes in a sense to keep living this life, own this business. So like, I don't know, I fanboy out on you guys more than anything, you know, like I've met some famous people, but it's like people that I don't know that I know what they did. I think it's really cool. So let's catch up on the second side of this and talk about camping and what it can do.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yep.
We're back. Second half of this deal, we're going to do a little bit different. And Ryan, I told you this earlier, you guys might get you may see a little bit of an emotional bend, because I've got a dog that's one of Free Spirit's dogs is going down, and it's not fun, but it's also like that in this podcast, because I do think so highly of military people. Like if I get emotional in this thing, or if like I say something and I like choke up, I love people. Love pets and different stuff like that. So I'm like got a hoarse voice because I'm sitting here thinking about the dog and my wife, but that's just life. So if you hear that, that's me, that's life. But the second half, I want to maybe talk a little bit about like, what is it like coming back? Whether you're injured, not injured, coming back into normal life. You went into civilian life and insurance, but like, just give us like a rundown of what it's like coming home.
Well, I mean, I kind of start off on what kind of probably led to my transition and all that. So it's, you know, we were served during a pretty heavy time of fighting. So from 2003 to 2007, we were a part of the first push of Fallujah in 2004. So when those Blackwater contractors got stuck in the city and they were killed, and then their bodies were burned and hung from the bridges, we pushed in there the next day and blocked off those bridges. So a section, one of the line companies, and a section of CAT, which is, I was in a mechanized unit, so drove around a vehicle, shot 50 cals, Mark 19s, tow guns.
Damn.
Mainly I was a tow gunner,
Okay.
and then I had a 240 up there. But that kicked off, to date, one of the biggest battles in Iraq. And,
Right.
we had our battalion plus a couple others on the
How many people are in your battalion?
There's 3 line companies.
Okay.
And then kind of like an H&S admin company as well. So there's roughly like 500 or somewhere around there.
Okay. But you know everybody.
You do. You know a lot of faces. You may not connect with everyone, but that's a lot of dudes. But
Right.
you do know.
Yep.
And you get really close really quick, especially going through the kind of stuff we were going through.
Right.
But during that time, my first deployment, I was blown up twice. So the first time was an IED that they buried too deep. So they had a 155 shell. It's an RD shell
Okay.
that they basically tapped into. We were doing a turnover with the 82nd Airborne, trying to find routes through the city, what would work for us and what wouldn't. We got directed by the Iraqi police down to go down a different road.
Okay.
And as we were traveling down that road, they blew the IED right on our vehicle. So, once again, praise the Lord, they buried it too deep. The guys behind us said they saw the Humvee almost like tip over. Just a massive explosion.
Jeez.
All I remember is like a black wall. Had one of my sniper buddies up in the turret with me, and then none of us got hurt. We just got our bells rung. And
Yep.
it was
But
pretty-
bells rung, that
Yeah.
ringing your bell is different than getting
Yeah.
your bell rung.
Yeah.
Like what blackout, like a lot of guys talk about, like you can't hear anything, everything's ringing, you
Yep.
can't see anything.
Yeah. So I have the permanent tinnitus and all that from that. And so we punched through there, and, there was a Suburban out in the distance, and that was when Zarqawi and all of his buddies were riding around in black Suburbans, and we were trying to request to engage the Suburban, but we got denied. Pretty sure those were the dudes that blew us up. But so that was like the first holy crap, but man, we all lived.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Fast forward to when we were, starting to fight in the city, we lived in the middle of the street, and they told us to plan for 3 days.
Wait, you say that again? You lived in the middle of the street.
Yeah, so right there where those bridges were, we had to block those off so no one could get in or out of the city.
Okay.
We built these HESCO barriers, these big lined cages, and you dump dirt into them, and you can kind of build barricades and stuff like that to kind of keep you safe and build checkpoints and all that. But so we were stationed there, and they were prepare for 3 days. It ended up almost probably being a month that we lived in the middle of the street. So talk about not showering for a month. Guys are nasty.
Jeez.
But it was constant fighting. There wasn't a day that went by that we were either engaging, out in the farmland that was kind of right outside the city, or across the river into the city. And we were getting mortared, RPG'd, all that stuff almost daily.
Jeez and peace.
But we found some weapons in a house right outside where we started our patrols from, and there was a median that we had to cross. We were going to punch some chow up to the guys watching it because someone was going to come and take the weapons. And there was a perfect cutout in the median there. And so I was lining the Humvee tire up, kind of looking over the side of the Humvee, and I was like, all right, go ahead and go. And thankfully I pulled my head back, but it was an anti-tank mine that was put in the middle of the street. So detonated. The whole front half of the Humvee blew off. Side doors were blown off, and I was knocked unconscious. So I had a minor TBI, traumatic brain injury. My eardrum was blown out. I had a blood clot in my eye. My neck's all jacked from C3 to C6, bulging discs. So kind of laid there and finally came to, and then my ears were shot, and I thought we were getting shot at. So I was going to pick up the 240 and just start and sit down, but then realized that we weren't getting shot at, and then tried to crawl out the other side of the Humvee. Well, Humvees have little small doors.
Right.
And my buddy's trying to pull me through, and he's like, actually, just go out the other side. The doors aren't there. So then I crawled out.
Oh my God.
And, you know, I got medevac to Baghdad because they were worried about, with the blood caught in my eye, I guess that's more like brain trauma that could be happening or something like that. So ended up.
How long were you in Baghdad? So then, like, when they medevac you to Baghdad, how long were you in Baghdad?
Not too long, and then I got medevac from there to Al-Assad. And then from Al-Assad, they did an examination on my ear. They're like, hey, if your eardrum doesn't close up, you know, if it gets infected, you're going to have permanent hearing loss. Like, we can send you back home, and if you need to do the surgery, we can it's a simple surgery. It's not like I was crazy hurt or anything like that, but, you know, I was like, I also don't want to lose my hearing.
Right.
So I ended up going to Germany, and then from Germany home. But then my eardrum ended up closing on its own, and then we ended up, one of my sniper buddies and I requested to go back. So I flew all the way back over to Fallujah and got there. And I remember my very first patrol, we got in a firefight that day, and it was like,
Jeez and Pete's.
back at it.
Back at it again.
So
you have no problem sleeping under the stars?
No. Yeah, I love it, man.
Is it, like, for what we hear a lot is like it's well, we focus on it too, is like the health and wellness side of it, right?
Yeah.
So like when guys come home, whether they've been injured or not injured, there's still like maybe a missing piece there. And we've seen it in overlanding, and I know you have, and I know you're part of some of it and know a lot of that. But is that like for military guys when they come home, like, is it, you've seen the benefits of it, of just being back out in nature?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think, you know, we were kind of talking off mic here a second ago, and the times where I could do training, especially for us out in Pendleton. So Pendleton and 29 Palms guys will definitely relate to this. We train a lot out in the Mojave Desert there in 29 Palms. And I mean, for us, we're driving around the Humvees, getting to romp through the desert and shoot guns. And then it's basically like hanging out with your boys camping.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes it gets really cold in the desert. So I remember like sleeping on the hood of the Humvee, and we turn the Humvee on and heat up the engine block to keep it kind of warm for a bit.
So let's bust this myth, because our tents are black.
Yep.
And everybody thinks that they're going to be way too hot. What's your opinion on that? Like, you kind of it does get cold in the desert.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, so I remember even overseas, like the second time we were up by the Syrian border, and you'd start off the day with your beanie on, all your warming layers. And by midday, all that would be stripped, and it'd be back up to almost 100 degrees.
How much was how much weight would you guys carry around when you'd go like on foot?
Yeah,
what is it usually?
Yeah, probably roughly maybe like, I don't know, anywhere from 30 to 50 pounds, depending on ammo you have and some of the gear, if you're carrying your pack or whatnot. We were blessed to be in the mechanized unit, be in the Humvees, so a lot of our gear was stored in our trucks. But the line guys,
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the line guys carried a bunch of crap all the time.
I don't know if you can answer this, and you just wink at me or tell me no, but like, when you like get in these daily firefights, how do you pack enough ammo to like? How do you decide that? Like, when you go out for a day, is it just like you have an allotment, or like there's extra in the Humvee and you guys are good to go? Yeah, I mean, or are there drops? Yeah, we get resupplied when we need them. That would happen, you know, every so often. But then also, I guess contrary to like movies and things like that, people watch like mag dump after mag dump. Right. You know, firefights don't last that long for the most part. Right. You know, when you push out to a 30 or 45 minute, like that's a long freaking gunfight. Yep. Where most things are pretty quick, and they wanted to be quick too. They wanted to take their couple pop shots at you and run be out. Behind a wall. Yeah. So, I mean, thankfully I never had, besides like one instance where I kind of ran out of ammo driving straight into an ambush. Yep. But I needed to duck down and reload my 240, but for the most part, we always were stacked with ammo. Can't run out of bullets. Yeah. Bad day if that happens. That's why. I mean, it's just like in the hunting world and being out there, the only way I feel like maybe I could relate is feeling like I know what it's like to be on my own and like in this massive place, but like there's no replicating it. There's no knowing what it would ever be like until you're there.
Yeah.
You know, all the training that you guys do, everything that you do is probably still different, very different than, you know, just training.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing, like the stuff you do back home and the way the military actually positions you to actually do the fighting. I mean, the repetitions and how, you know, I guess anal we are on making it perfect.
Yeah.
Like
how the team operates.
Exactly. And there were times, and I know a bunch of guys can recall this, I mean, it almost didn't feel like you were even knew what you were doing, but you were doing it.
Yeah.
Just because you had trained it so much, like your quick reaction drills and all that, like it just happened. And I mean, being out there and doing it so much, it even became
second nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Became your job.
Yep. And it takes the leadership too.
Right.
I mean, we had really good senior Marines behind us, and I mean, they drove, you know, what we needed to do into our heads. And
how did the guys fall into, this may be not a bad question, but like how do the guys fall in line when like you all are badasses? Like especially in the Marines, like is it just like there's no individuals at all costs? Like this is a team from the day you step on in boot camp, like egos at the door. How does the military deal with hotheads?
I mean, they get dealt with. It's in some way, shape, or form. It gets handled, and it gets handled like it should for men.
Right.
You know, it's not. You know that sometimes it's physical.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is, and it works.
Yeah.
But I think there is a pretty good vetting job. I mean, we always joke there's a booger in every platoon,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's always, especially when you start doing stuff like we were doing overseas, I mean, you want that guy to get up to speed.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want that guy next to you messing up when both your lives are on the line.
Right.
And I think that's the way kind of our team operated for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And, really helped if anyone was lacking in some sort of, you know, situational awareness or, you know, gun manipulation or something along those lines. We wanted to train them up and get them better.
Yeah.
And not, I mean, yes, it's intense and it's forceful, but we need you to do this.
Yeah. You guys are brothers there. You guys are family. Like the dynamic changes, you know, to not where you're civilians. Like you guys become, you said it earlier, you become very tight, very fast.
Yeah.
Because you have to,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. And
Yeah.
Does that bleed over when you get home? Like you stay connected with a lot of guys consistently? I mean, we all hear the bad stuff, the support that people need when they come home and the transition, and like
Mm-hmm.
I know it's real, but like maybe you can tell people how real it is and like how whatever you can do to help or get involved or whatever, like it can be a really good thing.
Yeah. No, I kind of have that stereotypical transition. I kind of made a mess of my life for a while getting out, and I think it was maybe the lack of structure. Like had I been able to get in with the fire department or a police department or something like that, maybe if I would have had that sight to get structure in my life right away, I would have done it. But yeah, I kind of went into a whole drinking spell and you know, ended up getting into a marriage and getting divorced, and then I had a baby and all, like just the typical stuff. But you know, having my daughter was one of the things I was like, I will never be a bad dad.
Yeah.
And so that
part you actually see in the movies, and it's real.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and I was like, I can't be a bad dad. I got to fix what I'm doing.
Kudos. Good
And
for you.
you know, in that time, it was my closest buddies, and I have a few that weren't in the military with me, but all of us that were the couple from Columbine, the two guys from Columbine, and then we have a guy in the Springs that were local here, and then I have a couple others that are in other states, but they all stayed behind me.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of ashamed and embarrassed of what I was doing, and being, you know, just doing the things I was doing. I went from, I love people, man. I'm not like one of the kindest people, I feel like. You know, I just love people, and I got really ashamed of the things I was kind of going through, so I kind of went into a hole.
Yep.
But all my buddies like stuck by me and kept pressing in and like
pull you out.
So yeah, And so that camaraderie and having them here was a massive blessing, because who knows where I would have gone if I was kind of alone.
Right.
So I think our guys all have their group within the group.
Yeah.
And a lot of them try to lean on each other, and we try to support. I mean, we've dealt with a lot of suicides after getting out, and it's been heavy, and it's weird. It's like one of the times we all get together, which sucks because obviously we were mourning in one of our buddies that took his life, but at the same time, all of us get to see each other, and it's like this little revival, and making sure we're all checking in, like who needs help or what.
Well, and that's what these, where I think overlanding, or where Free Spirit and things that we can do together, Spencer, Nick over at Mountain Yoda is like, I'm going to have him on sometime. I'm going to make him tell his story, because like that, the first time he told me his story was in Arizona. We were sitting with Keith, and we, the hair on all of our arms is standing up. Like we're like, fuck, man, are you serious? Like, really?
Yeah.
Like this is what happened. Like, and it's so real that it was like, damn, like Keith could feel it, I could feel it, we all could feel it, and we're like, let's go to bed. We're like, okay, I'm tired now, but like knowing Nick, knowing some of you guys, and then like what some of these overlanding companies or some of the vets are coming, and like we meet them at events, and it's like, hey, we're doing this, we're going on a tour, we're taking out 10 vets. Like, I think that stuff is so cool.
Yeah.
And like, we've tried to support we get a lot of phone calls to support, and we can't support every single one. But those camping trips are like healing trips too. And I know they are for you guys. You're back with your brothers. You're accomplishing something, or like you're going on a trip, and like there's certain things along the way maybe get you back into that mindset. Is that what you feel like it is too? Am I assessing that correctly?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the couple guys you talked about, we love getting together and talking. Like, I don't hang out with them as much as like Spencer I've talked to a little bit more, and Nick, like phenomenal stories and amazing dudes. And but yeah, like getting out with your buddies in nature, there's something about it. We talked about being spiritually and just the holistically good for you.
Yeah.
And I think there are some nonprofits and the things you guys are looking to do too, like those kind of trips. And if you kind of gather the guys that might be close, like that, I've seen some nonprofits do like battalion specific events. So, you're getting the guys that all serve together at one time and going out.
That'd be really cool.
And it's hard, like as we're getting older, families, work life, all that stuff, the stuff gets harder and harder to do as of right now. So when you do get that opportunity and get a blessing from the wife or the missus to go.
Yeah, or just hell, if you get the invitation, ask for permission.
Yeah.
Right? I just got back from a golf trip, and it was like a bunch of guys that I used to play pro golf with and some caddies and some college buddies, and like we don't see each other but once a year, but like I won't miss that trip, because like I get a reconnect from 15 years ago, and it's like we may have not, some of these guys I don't get to talk to, but some of them I stay connected with on a weekly basis. But the ones I don't talk to, it's like we didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Like we didn't miss a beat because we didn't see each other in 365 days, but we're going to go beat our brains in and have a blast doing it. Like, don't miss the invitation. Like, I think that's kind of the key, is if the invitation comes, figure out a way to do it, because you're going to get something out of it.
Oh, 100%.
No matter what.
Yeah.
And I think Mike said it last time on the podcast. He's chasing connection around fire pits. He's not trying to go camping by himself.
Yeah.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
Let's go camp and like hang out and like figure something out.
Yeah.
Like it's a good thing from a spiritual side. And I always tell people, person of faith, wear it on my wrist, know it. But you'll never feel closer to God until you're sleeping on top of a mountain, where the stars feel close, where everything is just like peace and quiet. There's no light transmission.
Yeah.
Like you're in it. There's something that happens, and I think it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, but I can't explain it, and we're gonna talk more about it on other podcasts of why.
Yep.
But I think for you guys and everything, the way we can get involved in knowing that, like, we're talking about, when we talk about it outside this podcast, it's the average civilian that may be going through staring at a computer screen for too long and disconnecting in that way.
Mm-hmm.
For you guys, it's the same thing, but it can be something totally different too.
Yep.
So I'm excited about that. I'm like, we talk about going camping all the time. We gotta get that CVT off your truck finally though. It's been on there for way too long.
Indeed. So
That's my fault. That's my fault. But yeah, we have to get out. We have to figure out something to do, whether you and Spencer and Nick, whether we can come up with something where we do an event here for you guys and we try to facilitate that connection again. Let's do it. Like wholeheartedly, let's do it. Because it's that action item of like, we just got to do it.
I would love it, man.
So,
and it's good, like bringing those guys together and bringing other people into the fold of it. And yeah, we're not supposed to be isolated. We're supposed to be in community and having fun together. And I mean, that's my biggest like thing in all of it, man, is just go out and be a good human being.
Right.
Like go have fun. I mean, if you look around, like just like you said, being on top of a mountain looking at the stars, if you can't marvel at that, you got to shift your perspective.
Yeah, you got to go figure something else out.
Because it's unreal. And the opportunities we have here, and especially when you travel around the world and been to different countries like I have and seen, I mean, people are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I always had you may identify with this, but like my friend group as I've gotten older has been a lot on either commonalities or people that do really hard things. Like I've had buddies that are professional skydivers. I've had pro skier buddies. I've just like in very intense people.
Yep.
I don't know why I gravitate towards that, but I know that there's a reason of like when people do hard shit, whether you're climbing Everest or whatnot, I don't care what else you do. Like, just show me you do something hard. Yeah. And like, we talked about that, like staying hard the last time that we were in here, and we're like, ice baths or whatever it is, putting yourself through some pain to get out on the other side of what that like healthy feeling is, I guess. Yeah, I'm rambling now because it's cool to me. It's inspiring to me. It's you want to get something out of it, right? So like we have to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm pumped to do something soon.
Yeah.
So whether it's a Friendsgiving where we set up a table that's 75 yards long on top of a mountain and have 50 people, 100 people doing it. I want to do something cool. So let's figure it out and do it, and leave off kind of this podcast with the same thing we always do. We always ask everybody, what got you addicted to the outdoors when you were a little kid? And it's kind of a call to the parents of like, you're one. So what was it that got you hooked?
It's funny that you just bring that up because like I've never really thought about that. Like I've just loved the mountains.
Yeah.
But thinking about it now, I can't remember where we were, but I went. My dad not being a big outdoors guy, we had these family friends that they did the bush life up in Alaska. They were homesteaded, all that. So we had these guys, and then my dad and I went out camping with them. But we camped right next to this waterfall, and I remember waking up. One, it was a miserable sleep. Two, the gear sucked. I mean, our whole tent and inside, we were soaked. We woke up freezing our balls off. But something about that, I was like, this is freaking awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Right?
And even though it was tough and kind of not the most pleasurable, it was though.
Right.
So I was like, man, I feel like alive.
Alive.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I almost finished your sentence for you. I tend to do that, but like, yes, alive. Like Tanner talked about it last time, like we were laying up in the Boundary Waters and he was like drinking what we used to call grog with my dad.
Okay.
Or we weren't old enough to drink grog, but my dad was laying there. He was like, Tanner, do you believe in aliens? And it's like, just to hear something like that where you know your dad's fully disconnected and having a really good time when he's thinking that way. So like, we always ask people, what got you hooked? Because I can remember things with my grandpa in Colorado that he didn't remember.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like what you retain as a kid is really cool. So another call out to the parents, get your kids out there. They'll never forget it.
For sure.
You're probably a testament to that, as we all are. So
got to.
Thanks for sharing your story. Mad respect. Thank you for your service. Can't wait to do more stuff, and we'll get rocking and rolling on doing something.
All right.
So thanks, Ryan.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you
being
guys.
here.
Appreciate it.